Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
A very beautiful morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us again this lovely Thursday morning. We are grateful to God for life. Arise and shine, it is a beautiful day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Here is Morning Spring right here on Western Spring Television, where we talk about everything critical, topical issues, speaking to politicians, policy makers, major stakeholders to help us get a clearer perspective, a deeper understanding of the issues at hand, looking at issues across board, politics, business, and issues that affect the society. My name is Evelyn Ohiolei. I welcome you especially to this edition. Femi is here.
All right, hi.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to see you here again, by the way. And of course, good morning to our distinguished viewers across the globe. This is where you have to be, and this is where you are right now. Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, the station that says it. Us, it is. Thank you very much for joining us today. Femi is my name, and it gives us great pleasure to do this again with you today. Of course, you heard what we do here, and we do that with candor, and of course, with the objective of having a better and a working nation, the kind of nation that we are proud of.
Yeah.
Good people, great nation. Once again, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Amazing. And just before we move to the talking point, yesterday the night of tribute for Albert Wigwe continued, and we heard, more people pouring their tributes, talk about the great Herbert Wigwe and what he was known for when he was here on Earth. And, that speech or tribute by his daughter, Tochi, was actually very emotional, talking and speaking about your mother, about your father, and your late brother. It was really emotional. We had lots of people going teary yesterday. I mean, look at His Eminence, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, speaking with all tears yesterday, saying that he thought he was going to die before Albert Wigwe. We also saw his younger sister also speak to their last conversation with the wife. Our last conversation with the wife, saying, the last thing I heard her say was, I'm going to see you on the other side in 11 hours, because they were supposed to travel from where they were to a place. And she was like, I'm going to see you in the next 11 hours. And she said, till now, the 11 hours has not yet come.
Yeah,
and she
will never come.
She still hopes that one day her brother will wake up and to see the sun rise again. But as it is, that is the end for Albert Wigwe.
That's we said it. So was it on Monday or thereabout when we said he testifies again and again to the ephemeral nature of life. Yeah, and only God knows how he does these things. Some will live till 100, some will live till 90. Some, babies, the day they are born, they return. It is just the prerogative of our maker, and that's where. But whatever you find yourself doing, do it well. Doing like that day, this day, today will be your last. Even when we are hopeful to live longer than that, not just to count the years or count the days, but making the days to count. And speaking to people that were in that room yesterday. When I saw Babajide Sanwo-Olu, I was like, this man is here again. But he testifies to the closeness, the bond that these people share. Off the camera, I was yesterday, days ago, was speaking about most persons, when they were talking about celebrating his professional legacy earlier in the week, you could see most persons that talked about him professionally and as allies are people he has known for decades, meaning he kept his circle. People that come across his way, he kept that circle, and they were still together doing business. And one name that keeps coming up is Aige Mokude, more like, what will this guy do? In fact, many persons were, they were fearing, if I'm going to use that word to say, how would I cope with his loss, because, his brother was talking yesterday as well, and he shared, the mischievous nature of children when they were younger, many things they've had to do, but it is what it is. Life must continue. But let's make it count.
A major lesson from his sister yesterday, love while you can. She said this is one thing that Herbert Wigwe's death has taught her. Love while you can. Love your family, love your friends, and not just you loving and you knowing for yourself. Express it. Let them know that, you love them.
Yeah,
because
let them know. Yeah.
Because tomorrow is not promised to you. Tomorrow is not promised anyone. We are just hopeful that we can wake up to see the next day.
That's right.
But while you're at it, ensure that whatever it is you're doing here on earth, you make it count. Love and express this love to your family.
That's right. Especially the family way. When everything crashes, hopefully not, but if something doesn't go rightly, you always have a family to run back to, either the ones by blood or the ones that you've got to know by association or by something. Before we leave this point, the brother said something yesterday, and where he was crediting, speaking about I and Dangote, he says since these issues happened, Dangote has been in their parents' house receiving visitors, like he's a member of the family. You know what that means? Means he has been at the older Wigwe's house, and everybody that is coming to greet the grandpa or the grandma, Dangote has been the one there receiving them. It speaks to the fact that everybody just wanted to do something to make it count. Like Herbert, we got you, even in death.
All right, and may the souls of the departed, all those who lost their lives in that sad incident, continue to rest in peace.
And other incidents as well.
Yeah. We'll take this break. When we come back, it took a time to go through what we have on the front pages of the different newspapers. Don't go anywhere.
Right.
We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is the newspaper review on Western Spring Television right here on Morning Spring. We'll start up with the Punch newspaper. At this time, on the Punch newspaper, 24 states cannot pay salaries without FG allocation. This is according to Budget's Ministry, and 24 states to pay 1.48 trillion naira salaries in 2024, but generate 914 billion naira IGR. Governors advised to boost IGR. Ondo, Yobe, Sokoto, Plateau, Niger, Nasarawa, Adamawa, Cross River, Delta, Abia, others affected. Away from that, other headlines on the Punch newspaper this morning. Additional wins Awolowo Prize says low productivity costs Africa $2.6 trillion yearly. Minimum wage, labor slashes demand to 500,000 naira.
Interesting.
And troops comb bushes for 101 abducted women. IDP homes burnt. All right, we spoke to that yesterday. We hope that those people are found. FG foreign scholarship beneficiaries lament unpaid 8-month stipends. FG foreign scholarship beneficiaries lament unpaid 8-month stipend. What's happening? You would say you've given your word, you're going to sponsor these people through school. Why not be true to your words and make good of the promise that you have given to them? This doesn't actually speak well to us as a country. Top corner of the Punch newspaper this morning, 30 killed in Benue fresh attack. Senate to meet Tinubu. And blackout, FG threatens to revoke disco's licenses. Lastly, on the front page of the Punch, CBN printing of 22 trillion naira under Buhari fueled inflation, says the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun. And that will be all for the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, quite interesting, though, Evelyn, to note that the budget are saying, budget department is saying that 24 states can't pay salaries without FGE allocation. It means if the FAC were to seize, 24 of these states will be insolvent. And by the way, it's something that's close to what people have always known. That's why most state governors will go cap in hand to Abuja every time to say, we don't come.
This is why we need true federalism. Let the states grow according to the resources they have and to their ability, to their capabilities, what they can, their capacity rather, what they can actually do. It will actually also build or fuel healthy competition among states when you see that, oh, Lagos State is doing this, we also can be able to pull this through. Abia State is doing this, Edo State is doing this. So I think if we can actually work on true federalism, it will be a lot of good for us as a nation.
Right, I agree. But then, I dare say, even as it is, if governors, their cabinet, were to be creative, to stop the unnecessary fleecing rather, of their resources, just for a few, I think they can do more better. Even with the current arrangement that we have, they can look inwards, and work. They can always do better, but that's quite interesting. We move to the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust newspaper is next. And in the house, this UN confirms 200 women IDPs abducted in Borno. Still on the abduction that happened 2 days ago or 2 nights ago, thereabout. Families ask federal government, National Assembly to rescue loved ones. Terrorists burn IDP houses at Dikwa. Why? Internal displaced persons' houses. You attack them. That's not enough. You burn their houses. And of course, you could see some pictures of, dead cows here that were attacked. The thing is, you attacked people, you abducted them, burned their houses, killed their cows. The question is, what is your intention in the first place? Why kill the cows? Well, sometimes some things are just, unexplainable. Why kill the cows? Again, what's the offense of the cattle? Interesting. Awkwardly, by the way. Over 40 killed as militia groups clash in Benue. And who are they? Militia groups. Okay. Food looting. Police Neymar tightens security at warehouses. Header, 50 cows. Sheep killed in plateau attack. An MPA. And I think the plateau attack, maybe that's a picture we are seeing here, not really from the IDP attack. NPA grew revenue to 501 billion naira in 2023. Top strip, hardship. Reps seek 100,000 naira minimum wage for workers. I think you read something about 500,000 the other time. Jigawa Assembly, okay, maybe there is minimum wage. We are earning. There is something that should be called living wage. Maybe yours is living wage, 500K, and then this one is minimum wage. 100K.
This is from the reps. The 500,000 is from labor.
Okay.
They were gone in for 1 million now.
Wow. Okay.
They reduced it to 500,000.
From the reps, right?
From the reps.
We shall see. Jigawa Assembly impeaches 2 principal officers, suspend 4 local government chairs, and Buhari's 8 years of printing money without productivity cost inflation. That's coming from the man in charge as far as the economy is concerned. In Nigeria, the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun there. By the way, we learned of impeachment notice that has been served to Felicia Ibo yesterday. That's one man and his boss that hardly can a week or 2 pass without you hearing something from that beautiful state that is just within just the people. It's not just about other things, just Shaibu or Basaki or Shaibu House of Assembly, but it is what it is. That will be all from the front page of the Daily Trust.
And you know what, the Edo State is the heartbeat of the nation, and anything wrong with your heartbeat, if it's faster, you're going to be disturbed. So that's why the entire nation is focused on Edo State at this time. We really want things to go well in that particular state. From Daily Trust, we head on to Vanguard newspaper this morning, and The big picture there is still on Herbert Wigwe Night of Tribute that happened yesterday, and we can see the Vice President seated in that picture, flanked by Lagos State Governor and also Ike Imekweta, his wife, and late Herbert Wigwe's children there, and we can see Aliko Dangote at the far end there, and with the caption, "Thierry Sanusi, I thought I would die before Wigwe." Away from that, bloodbath in Benue, 50 killed as militia gangs go to war. Tinubu has cleared strategy to reform economy, says Bagudu. LG threatens to revoke disco's licenses over poor power supply. Top corner of Vanguard newspaper this morning, effective implementation of extant laws makes expatriate levy needless, says OPS. We spoke to that yesterday. Edo Guba, Shaibu served impeachment notice as Ohiolei denies involvement. CRPP condemns move. Shaibu keeps mum, consults his lawyers. And NLC TUC issue 7-day ultimatum to Soludo over workers' welfare. Amazing. We are determined to consolidate our 2023 superior performance, says implementation of performance improvement measures is key. This is according to the NPA. Just for the laughs, right here on the front page of Vanguard newspaper, Mr. and Mrs. yelling at Mr. this time, "You called another woman an angel in my presence. What's so special about her? What has she got that I haven't? So she's an angel, huh?" And Mr., of course, you know, men with words, they will always come with a defensive, sweet words. "Come on, dear, you're not in the same category. She's just an angel. You're a goddess." I mean,
interesting.
How would you compare yourself to an angel?
Just an angel?
You're much more than that.
An angel is at best a servant.
You're much more than that.
You're a goddess. Interesting.
That would be all for the Vanguard.
All right, from the Vanguard, we move to The Nation. The Nation newspaper is next. And outages. Minister threatens discos with license revocation. Take that again. Outages. Minister threatens discos with license revocation. And a couple of writers here. Willful non-performance won't be tolerated. Willful non-performance won't be tolerated. So the ones that are not willful will be tolerated. What's the implication? Willful means the ones that are done intentionally won't be tolerated. So if it's not done intentionally, but it keeps affecting the people, are you saying you're going to tolerate that? Another writer says, distribution companies, TCN, summon. Okay. And government unveils policy to drive in investment in oil gas sector. Again, government unveils policy to drive investment in oil and gas sector. Okay, Tinubu, Awolowo's legacies, principles live on. This is from the president saying Awolowo's legacy, the late sage Femi Jeremiah Awolowo, principles and legacies live on. Okay, but then, you know, Evelyn, you bear me witness that many politicians, especially from this part of the country, would rather, you know, link on, hang on to, you know, pride themselves as being disciples of Awolowo. His legacy is what he represents, you know, his intellectual prowess, his principle of politics and the rest of it. But then we all know what we know, and it's quite evident, by the way. And I think the man that was awarded the leadership, Obafemi Awolowo Leadership Award yesterday, is the AFDB president, Akinwumi Adesina, yesterday. And, you know, in that room, it was about the who is who, really. Many persons were there, different heads of states from different countries, former heads of state here in Nigeria, Yakubu Gowon, you know, Olusegun Obasanjo, the birthday boy who celebrated his birthday, was yesterday or 2 days ago.
That's March.
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Yeah, he was there as well. And, many persons speaking to what additional represents. But moving on. NPA plans $1 billion reconstruction of Tin Can on airport, others. And Apapa, Warri, Calabar also listed. Bureaucracy that has the insert of the passport of the Minister of Interior, Bumitunji Ojo. Bureaucracy, cash crunch, stall e-passport issuance. Again, bureaucracy, cash crunch, stall e-passport issuance. Cash crunch from who? From the ministry. Are they saying the ministry doesn't have money, or the agencies under that ministry doesn't have money? Many persons will say, many persons have credited to the work. It should not just be like a bubble that just, rises, gives that exciting feel, and then disappears. These are the issues. Let these things work, and wish him all the best. But bureaucracy, cash crunch, stall e-passport issuance, that sounds more like an excuse to me. Please break the bottlenecks. Speak to who you should speak to. All we want is a better and a working nation that makes things easy and is constant with global best practices. But on strip, UCH doctors on strike over attack on colleague. Ekiti APC chair dies. Part one there. But UCH doctors on strike over attack on colleague. Sometimes when these things happen, Evelyn, I ask myself, yes, we are not being insensitive right now, but can't cases be handled isolatedly? Like this is a case that has happened, is bad, treat it as an isolated case instead of what we are seeing that UCH doctors, goes on strike. Injury to one is injury to all. We know that. But then what happens to the patients? They are not part of this. Many people, unexpectedly, if care is not taken, will die, will suffer more pains. Some situations that could have been salvaged will go, worse. So why go on strike? Because a colleague was attacked.
Yes, I would say, to play the devil's advocate now, I'd say it's a form of protest. And, in this part of the world,
agree, but then who pays for that protest?
When we are on the negotiating table, when we want to engage in dialogue, it really doesn't hold so much power, if I'm to use that word. So people tend to, most organized labor or workers tend to make use of industrial action or protest to drive home their points. But then, like you said, we have to also be considerate of other people.
Especially some critical sectors like health.
Exactly, especially because one mistake or one delay in anything can lead to loss of life. And loss of life cannot be redeemed. It's not something you can get back again. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Many persons might have been scheduled for surgery, and that means they will not be attended to.
And that's why the necessary actions must be taken by the right authority so that this can be done.
So that these things will not degenerate to this level every time, except it's now a pattern that those guys now feel this is the only way to drive home our point. The reason why I'm saying that is, okay, when these issues are not being attended to, maybe the persons that attacked the doctor, they are found, they are prosecuted. But then things that have gone worse can never be retrieved. These are the issues. Come back to us. So what happens? But then we are not saying they should be attacked or their lives should be, in danger. But then it is what it is. Top strip, APC draws battle line with governor over 16 lawmakers. Controversy trails killing of 30 in Benue, and family of 7 wiped out. These are gross, by the way. It's gross to hear. 21 or 24 lawmakers sign Shaibu's impeachment notice. President pays a glowing tribute to Herbert Wigwe. 21 or 24 lawmakers sign Shaibu's impeachment notice. You think he will survive this? You think he would survive this? 21 out of 24 lawmakers signing his impeachment.
Well,
we'll wait to see.
When it comes to politicians, anything is possible.
Anything can happen.
And this might just be a way to get him to back out or back down.
A few months ago.
Exactly, back down on his race to become the governor of the state. You remember that he still wants to get his certificate of return from the party secretariat. And it's not
and
like
even threatening to go to court.
And it's not really like they are probably, I'm just saying this from a layman because I'm not a politician, but it's not really like they are trying, they think him going to court or him approaching the party secretariat will get him the ticket. But then they cannot go to the battle in court now, the political battle with divided front. They have to be united. So you can see, you can tell that Shaibu is not just a small fry or a small fish.
So it needs to be whipped in line.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
These conspiracy theories, by the way.
It will just give room for more negotiations, more dialogue, and all of that.
We hope to see, and interesting days ahead, you know. By the way, that will be all from the headline segment for today, the segment in which we reel out interesting stories and headlines for you as seen in our major dailies. And we'll go on this break right now. When we come back, we'll be speaking to the issues. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to Morning Spring right here on Western Spring Television. This is The Conversation, and right here what we do is speak to critical issues affecting our country, majorly our country, our society. We speak to people of interest, politicians, policymakers, major stakeholders to help us have an in-depth analysis, to give an in-depth analysis and help us have a clearer understanding of the matters at hand. And for this morning, we will be focusing broadly on the state of our nation, talk about governance, talk about people's attitude to governance, and what we should be doing at this time to move Nigeria forward. Also, we'll be taking a branch at the Orosaya report, still on the implications and workability of this report at this time. To help us make clearer of these issues is a former head of service of the Federation of Nigeria, Professor Oladapo Afolabi, joining us virtually all the way from Houston, Texas, United States of America. Good morning to you, Prof. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, it's so nice to have you, and we appreciate your time, especially holding up at this time where you are at the other end. Generally, I would like to ask you, you are also a major stakeholder in this project called Nigeria. And we know what happened on the 29th of May, 2023, where there was a transition from the Muhammadu Buhari government to a new government, the President Tinubu'S administration. And we are just 9 months into the administration. Firstly, I'd like to get your perspective on how President Tinubu has been handling the affairs of the country at this time. Your impression about his administration so far?
President Tinubu has come on board, and he came with a track record of excellence, the way he had managed Lagos himself as a governor, and the way he had ensured that his dynasty and his vision are entrenched. If we have the experience of Lagos, knowing where we're coming from and where we are now in Lagos, we will give kudos to him. At the federal level, we were expecting the same magic. What we have seen so far is that President Tinubu inherited a very difficult situation, and he jumped into it boldly with courage. And you know, a lot of the time, you don't see all the parameters until you are inside. Now it's inside, confronted with all the issues. Yes, they are taking on two bold issues: the subsidy removal from PMS, which by and large was just bleeding the nation, and empowering a few. Also encouraging our resources to be externalized to our neighbors, taking advantage of our loose borders, the wickedness of our people. He attempted to stop that. That was a very laudable and courageous move to contain our resources within us and stop the bleeding and the leaking. But rapidly, it took on another bleeding spot. That is the floating or the forex. And for some curious reasons, these two levers, when they moved together, came with maybe not too expected consequences. Huge inflation, shortage of forex, and hunger for the people. That's what we are confronting with now. So what I expect quickly is that this impact should be mitigated. And there are many ways to mitigate this impact. So I'm sure the administration is working on this. It's not oblivious to the situation which we are now. And my view is that, yes, in Yoruba, they say, there are two cliches that we must always keep in mind, is that the honey inside the rock is not easy to reach. There will be a lot of effort, a lot of suffering, a lot of hard work to get. We hope there won't be too much of bleeding before we get to the heart.
All right, Professor, such an elaborate submission on the President Bola Tinubu administration that you have made this morning. But then, I would like to ask, do you think that the president pumped in a lot of adrenaline into the system when he came? You know, at the campaigns, he said it that he was going to get to work from the very first day in office. And we all know that the very first day he gave a directive that subsidy is gone. He made a statement, a bold and what some people call audacious statement that subsidy is gone. And we're still grappling with the effects of that even till date. And months into his administration also, we had the flotation of the Naira. And a lot of people said it was too much policies back to back. He could have started with one, seen the effect of that before going on to the next one. Do you also share in that view, Prof?
Oh, you are broken off. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Professor.
Okay, what's that last question?
All right, I'm asking you, there are people that think President Bola Tinubu its policies were like back to back. It was like a new kid on the block that had so much energy, and he just wanted to get to work, get things done. But then people think he could have done it one bit at a time. You know, we had the removal of fuel subsidy, then the flotation of the naira, then we are also hearing about the expatriate employment levy. You know, he was doing that because he wanted to get things on track. But some people are of the opinion that he didn't consider the effect or consequences of these policies he's making, and he should have done it one step at a time instead of bombarding the economy with lots of policies. Do you share in that view too?
Let me say this, and I will try to give you the reason why I want to say what I'm saying.
Okay.
You see, when you are a passenger in a car, especially on the front seat, and your driver is driving, you're always a better driver. And from my own experience, before I became the head of service, I worked closely with my predecessor, almost like his 2IC, for about a year. So expectedly, as soon as I was sworn in, it was the expectations of people that I should just hit the ground running. But until I sat on that seat, I did not see the full ramifications of that office. I think that is what the story also is with our president. He got into the office. Yes, he had a few things, had a few ideas from without. But right inside, sitting on the saddle, he knew what is confronting him better than any other person. You see, we can have armchair criticism all over, but I am not on that seat. So I will not be able to judge. But what we are seeing is the impact, and the impact is not palatable. So what we need to do, rather than tear him into pieces, go closer, give him ideas that we know, and let him analyze them and help us navigate through this problem. Whining, weeping, and all those things will not solve our problem. We just have to work together with him. And I understand from my interaction with a few people in power is that is attending to it. The appeal to people, and which is also appeal to government, is that government must hasten up to resolve this issue quickly, quicker than in ordinarily would have taken. And our people should also be patient, be more creative. We cannot just be leaning, depending on governments for everything. We must learn to be creative and also face reality of our time.
All right, Prof, thank you. Quickly, before we go to, other part of the conversation, yes, the president, according to you, has identified these issues and is going, tackling it headway, and maybe what you see outside the chair, is different from what you are seeing when you are sitting on the chair, in which you gave us an example of yourself. Many persons will say, okay, but isn't that too naive? Because somebody governing Lagos, just one of the states, not just, to put it in that way, it's a big state with a big economy, by the way, but it's just talking about governance is one of the 36 states is different. What you see and how you approach this is different from when you are in charge of 36 states and the FCT, talking about, governance. And now that he's doing this, the consequences is biting hard. I must tell you, Prof, that this money, many persons are not smiling. So it's not that they are whining, as you said it, or they are crying. It is the reality. Some will say it's like you beating a baby and you're telling the baby not to cry. The purchasing power of the people has gone down. Having 10,000 naira, which will get you 3 items, possibly before May, that same 10,000 naira can hardly get you 1 item right now. That's the level of the pain people are suffering. Transportation, especially the crazy food inflation. So when you say that people should stop whining and crying, it is the reality. So wouldn't that be sounding too insensitive that yes, the government might have a good intention, but their strategy and the consequences that has followed the policies possibly is too much on the people? And let me quickly add this, Prof. It's looking like even the people are, they are being patient, they are being understanding with what we are seeing. They are saying our leaders are telling us to bear the pain, to endure the pain we will gain later, but in their own lifestyle, in their own paraphernalia of office, nothing has changed. They are still living large as usual. So why must I be the one to take the pain when my leaders are still having business as usual? Prof.
Okay, again, when you are not there, you really don't know what you are facing as such. I'm not being insensitive or not understanding the extent of the pain. We are all going through this pain. What I'm saying is that it should not be all criticism. People should also come closely and make suggestions, work together to navigate our way through this. The purchasing power has gone down tremendously. In all spheres, we must face reality of the time. But when you come to some of the criticism about people living larger than life in government, I'm not holding brief for government, but I just want to give one example.
Yes, please.
When the Chancellor of Germany visited Nigeria, we did not have any befitting car to receive the Chancellor of Nigeria and the Chancellor of Germany. What do you do as a president who belonged to Committee of Nations, always received flamboyantly, generously elsewhere? It comes to your turn, you are hitting the dry bone. So these are some of the decisions taken that sometimes is interpreted as being insensitive or too flamboyant. That's not to say that there are no excesses. There are excesses, and we must cut the fat. This is why I say government must hasten to take those steps that will ensure that we are on the track to success, on the track to better life, on the track to ease all the pains that we are suffering now, and on the track to enable us face reality. We cannot be living beyond our means. Right now, Nigeria is living beyond its means, and this is why people are suffering.
All right. Okay.
Remember, in the days of austerity measure, I went through in my lifetime about 2 major austerity measures. One when I was in primary school, and one when I was already a graduate working. In fact, I had my PhD at the time. We faced reality at the time. We were not importing any textile material, and we had only essential commodities that we had access to in a measured form. Is the society ready now At those times, only if we traveled abroad, we would see new cars. We were using Tokumbo cars or cars that we could put together here. In fact, some Nigerians already fabricating one form of car or the other. So this is the reality we have to face. We should not be going for Rolls Royce when we could not manufacture Volkswagen. We should not want conflicts when even the OGI, we are jettisoning it, we are not even attending to it. So these are some of the issues. It's everybody, all sides. I must tell you, we need to face reality.
All right, and reality we must face. Now, let's talk about governance and its operations. At a time in this nation where you are the head of service of the Federation, and that is one, you know, the engine room of any parastatal, being from the local government to the state government and the federal level as well, the civil service. But over the years, many persons will say the civil service, if you take it in totality, that maybe they have always been underperforming. They are not being really productive as they were. You know, there is a usual parlance around here in Yoruba land. They call it Ishe Oba. You know, and nobody does Ishe Oba and sweats. Ishe Oba Lagu, if I may translate that, meaning you don't have to really sweat when you are doing a government job. And that cliche as is what many persons have said, that is the default setting of an average civil servant. Not that we don't have excellent people who take their career very seriously, but they will say in totality that civil service has largely been unproductive because all they have to do is to clock in at a point and they clock out, except they have supervisors who will not just allow business as usual. How will you rate the civil service, knowing fully well you are in charge at some point? And again, let me add, many persons have said the civil servant is the cesspool of corruption, that they are the enablers of corruption, that there's nothing a politician would do without the enabling factor of the civil servant and the civil service as well, and people that are there. You are in charge. Give us your experience, please.
Well, thank you for this loaded question. But let me start by again a cliche that amukun ẹrù ẹwọ, wọn lókè lẹ ń wò, ẹ wò sàlẹ̀. That is, you can help me translate that. That a knuckled king and legged person is carrying a straight load, but the load is slanting, and people are complaining about a slanting load. They did not go down to see the legs of the carrier. That is our situation. We have many factors, really fundamental factors, that has landed us where we are in terms of civil service. One of the most fundamental is the education system that we're running today. We have always beaten a drum check that education could be free at all levels, but what are we getting? Largely unemployable graduates, not fit for any purpose. That we must attend to have the correct products that will drive the engine room of government, the engine room of governance. So that's one. So from the recruitment, what you get is what you recruited. I am a son of a public servant. We lived on salary, absolutely. When my father had a car, lived in a very, very a simple home, able to send all his kids to school on the salary, which at that time, I'm referring to the 50s and possibly to the 60s, were living wages. Today, I do not know of a civil servant that can live absolutely on the income from government. So when you see all these effects, the first thing for any human being is survival. And it's not to say that you have to be dishonest, but the way the nature of the world is, that's why religion is so strong, trying to keep us on the right track. Majority will be off the track, looking for ways to survive. This is what you are saying that you are describing as corruption. They must meet their needs. So we need to tackle the wages, among several other things. The other is that there happens to be no business in Nigeria anymore. Industries have collapsed, yet people want to live the style of an industrialized nation. So we have a few, the industries are now narrowed. That is what I mean by industries. Sources of income are narrowed to politics, to religion, to some other very soft employments that are really not productive. And to make matters worse is that the society is infested with all bad manners today, including use of hard drug. What do you expect from a society that is drunk? So don't let's point fingers at civil service. Let's point finger at the society. The whole society is rotten. And so everybody everywhere. Go to the private sector. These things are happening so strongly there. So also is here. I'm not again trying to defend civil service, is that the society must get its act together to get good people that we can sieve and select to manage this engine room.
All right, you know, if I get you correctly, you're saying the civil service that we're talking about is a product of our society as well, is what we churn into the system that we are getting. But how, one we want to say, and I'm asking, how about having a structure that exposes inefficiency, a structure that exposes, you know, people that are just there? Because when you have a system, you know, that doesn't allow inefficiency, that doesn't allow laziness, instead of having a system that is entrenched in what many persons have called anyhowness, meaning anybody can just be there because there's really nothing that anybody can do about it, meaning we are just helpless. So this is what we get as a nation. And of course, how about the element of greed? You have talked about the element of survival, which make many persons, possibly who are not strong on moral value or religious value, to give it, you know, anything just to survive. How about element of greed? That whenever you get there, just make sure you look for anything you can scavenge on. And while you are at the edge of service, sir, were there ways you try to tackle some of these vices?
Again, once again, thank you. You see, what we have now is new wine in old skin. Times are changing rapidly, but we are stuck in our old ways of managing government or servicing government as civil servants are. The rate of exposure to elsewhere that we are copying, that we are helping in the community in which we belong is very, very, very minimal. We are not at that stage of training and retraining and retraining. So when I was head of service, one thing that I noticed and identified was limited capacity to deliver what is required of the present. So we must tackle capacity. Apart from all these greed and other vices that will naturally come, we will always have greedy people, you will always have indolent people. But when you have majority of the workforce with capacity, with appropriate income, with peace of mind, with appropriate reward system, with appropriate shame system for failure, things will shape up. So we, as I said, we need to tackle this thing fundamentally. All we have are just symptoms, and we are trying to treat symptoms when indeed the disease is there deep in our body.
Okay, Prof. Just by the side, before I move on to the next area I want us to focus on, is it true that civil servants help politicians to steal? You know, there is this notion that even some politicians do not come to the office to siphon money, but civil servants, once a public officer is in office, they are the one that puts the public officers through and say, Oga, this is the way that we do this one, or this money, we don't use it for this, we bring it into private pockets and all of that. You were once in the system. In fact, you held the highest office in civil service. So I'd like to ask that question directly to you. Is it true that civil servants help politicians to steal?
That question is stereotyping.
How?
Everywhere you have the good and the bad. And we always say this in also our language. So when, even before you get to office, you already had plans to do several other things. So the crooked ones will help you. The straight ones will run away from it. I was in service for 35 years. There will be bad ones and there were good ones. Of course, I remained on the right lane, the correct lane, and God rewarded me appropriately. But some people are in a hurry. They don't want to wait for God's reward. They get crooked, they got beaten, they go to jail and all sorts of things. So indeed, any system, just as any other parts of the system, we have the good and the bad. Let's thank God it's the good ones that are still sustaining the system. We pray for them, and we want to have more of those. And God weed out the wicked ones, the bad ones, the rotten ones, including civil servants and politicians.
All right, Prof. Let's look at a recent directive given by President Bola Tinubu announcing the plans to implement the Orosaye, the 12-year Orosaye report, which proposes the merger of ministries, departments, and agencies. Some, departments and agencies will be scrapped, some subsumed, and all of that. But I'd like to get your impression. You were head of civil service, I mean, around that time, I guess, around that time. So I'd like to get your impression of this directive by President Bola Tinubu. There are people that have said that this is ill-timed. This is not the time to give such directive or have that implementation. And there are some that say it is outdated, because at the time when the Orosaye report was brought forth, we had 541 government agencies, and there were merging of 220 out of the then 541 agencies. But then we'll go for this quick break. When we return, we'll definitely have Professor talk to this issue, that we have at hand on the Orosaye report, the workability and the implications of the implementation. Stay with us. right, welcome back. It's still the conversation on Morning Spring, and we still have with us Professor Oladapo Afolabi, former head of service of the Federation of Nigeria, and he was head of service under the Goodluck Jonathan administration. Professor, thank you so much for staying with us. We had to go on for that break. Are you still with us, Professor Afolabi?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, I was talking on the Oronsaya report, the workability of that report, and also the implications of the implementation. Some people have asked that, or have said that it is ill-timed, and some think it is outdated. Your thoughts very quickly, sir.
Well, actually, this process started when I was head of civil service of the Federation.
All right.
The design of what was really driving us at the time was to have an efficient, slim, and effective civil service, or rather public service. But by the time this report is getting to Tinubu's table, many waters are passed under the bridge. What I think this government has done, that's why again I don't want us to be in a haste, we have the outcome, is to receive whatever is the content of the white paper that came out of two reviews of the Oronsaya report. One was reviewed, the Oronsaya report itself was reviewed by Goni Aji, who was also a retired permanent secretary, federal permanent secretary. And I was a member of the committee under Amapepu, who was also a retired permanent secretary, to review post-Oronsaya reports of 2012 or thereabout, because several other parastatals and many ministries had been created post that report. And then we had the Evelyn committee, Evelyn Okeke committee, who also was a former head of civil service of the Federation, who did a white paper on the post-Oronsaya report. So really it's a bundle of studies, I would say. Right. But now we call everything as Oronsaya report. So what the committee of Tinubu administration will do is not too clear yet. But let me say this in a general way. Whatever will bring efficiency to the system, I will go for it, whatever time. Good time, bad time, all times are one kind of time. The other principle that I will also engage in getting this implemented is that it should not hurt the people.
All right.
We should avoid hurting people.
So by saying hurting the people, there are people that have brought up concerns about job losses if this report is being implemented, because we are going to be having some agencies scrapped, totally scrapped, some merged. So is that also one of your concerns for people that will be laid off from their jobs?
Oh, I tell you this, again, depending on the outcome, you may not have a single job loss. I'll give you an example. When I used to be permanent secretary, Ministry of Labor, and at the time we had also different ministries to tackle water and agriculture. There were Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Water Resources. I think they've returned to that status now. I was transferred to merge the two ministries into one. We had in each ministry at the time, if I could recollect, 16 departments each, because they were large ministries. One asked me to reduce to only one, with 8 departments. So we are to reduce 32 to 8 departments. We did it at the time. Nobody lost any job. And why did we do that? The philosophy at the time was for the federal government to have water for agriculture and not water for domestic. That's it. The emphasis was that the dams that were being created should be for agriculture and to some extent for hydroelectric power, but not for domestic drinking water.
Okay.
So we did it, nobody lost any job. If this is done well, nobody will lose job.
All right. Prof, quickly, as we wind down, but I want to take it back a bit. There were reasons, there was intention why the former service Steve Oronsaye was saddled with, going through that lane and submitting that report. I like to, and many persons are saying, and that is what I'm asking you right now, do you really believe it's about inefficiency on the part of the civil servant, or really the civil service of Nigeria is over-bloated and inefficient? Because we have some MDAs of government that will be subsumed, that many persons have said some of these MDAs at best should have just been units under different ministries. Now everybody is just there trying to be like an entity. Do you really believe it's over-bloated and it's full of people that are doing, and MDAs that are doing overlapping duties? Do you share that sentiment?
There are overlaps, there are duplications, clearly. And this is the wrinkle that we are trying to straighten with this kind of study, with this type of recommendation. But let me say this to you. One of the dot checks that's the right for us from elsewhere is the belief that the public service is over-bloated. When you check this against the countries that are well developed, especially the OECD countries, where you have artificial intelligence, IT, everything supporting the system, per capita employment of civil servants or public servants is higher than Nigeria. The trouble is we are not deploying our resources properly. We are not using this workforce where they could be most impactful. So a form of reform like this will probably position us well and get people to work and deliver promptly, accurately. Again, as I said, it depends. When you have a clay in the hand of the molder, it depends on how well, how skillful he is, that will enable people to appreciate the handwork.
Okay.
My plea to government is that this reform, in whichever way, whether it's a Rosoye or any other amendment, should be kept in the hand of very excellent sculptors.
All right. All right. Prof, before my colleague will come in now, my question is this, and I agree with this last submission of yours, that the workability and the structure of this implementation, of course, the federal government has put up a committee to see to this, and you have said it should be put in the hands of the right sculptors, and I agree with you. But I'd like to ask, because for the benefit of hindsight, that you are in that chair as the head of service, is there a definite type of model that we are running? I'm talking about the civil service. Was it an inbuilt model, the kind of civil service we are running right now, or we copied it from somewhere? And I'm saying it, our democracy, the model was on the back of what the Americans are practicing, even if we are not doing it the way they are doing there. So this model of ours, was it inbuilt? I'm talking about civil service, or it was a model copied from somewhere?
What we have really is important. We inherited this from the colonial masters, the British, who are the parliamentary system of government. Now we are using the same system to service a presidential system. We need to revisit that and align what we have, which is in and large, a model for a parliamentary system to be aligned to a presidential system. We still have that issue.
So it appears that it's not working.
Not sufficiently, I would say.
All right, would like to sincerely appreciate your time, Professor Oladapo Afolabi, on the show this morning. We understand that the country where you are, it's 7 hours behind, so we appreciate you for staying up. It's midnight where you are, and we also thank you so much for your takes, your submissions, and also your explanations on all that we have spoken about today concerning the state of our dear nation, Nigeria. Thank you so much, Professor. We appreciate you.
Always at your service. Thank you.
Thank you,
all right.
All right. It's good to hear that he's always at service, meaning it was the head of service, and still, even though retired, it's the head of service. We'll stay on this matter and other matters. It's about having a working and, a prosperous Nigeria that we are proud of. Please do follow us on other social media platforms. Femi Ojo is my name. God bless Nigeria.
And I'm Evelyn Ohiolei. Thank you for your time.